Yeah, so when I was a kid watching cartoons, and I noticed that most notably in Tom and Jerry, the reason why it was so funny is because they were hurting each other.
Right.
They were all, using weapons, mallets, and lighting each other on fire, electrocuting each other.
Yeah, real shit.
And for some reason, it was funny. And then, I used to watch Three Stooges all the time. That came out way back in the 50s, I think, in the 40s and 50s.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so they used to hurt each other, and we thought it was amusing. But the thing is, I knew the difference between the acting and the show and what was going on in real life. And so when we used to see people at school trip and fall and hurt themselves, motherfuckers couldn't tell the difference between an act and somebody really being hurt.
Right.
And it was funny to them. I never laughed at that. And then people, they be embarrassed and they be in pain and they would get up and they be crying, but they trying to laugh so that they could fit in with everybody else. They don't want to express their pain because they don't want to stand out in the crowd. They don't want to be different. They don't want to seem like they take themselves too seriously, even though that injury could have cost you your career. That injury can make you walk different for the rest of your life, make you look different. You'll never have the same sensation.
Yeah, it's true.
You're going to have a scar after the surgery, after they bandage you up and everything, and you sitting there trying to laugh because everybody else is laughing.
You laughed once. You know what I mean? You had to.
That is just not funny to me. It never has been. If people really hurt themselves, it's a difference. It's a difference between you trip and fall and then you get back up.
All right, some funny.
So that is kind of funny. But I'm talking about, like, I've seen people fall down the steps and break their arm.
Oh shit.
Or what else is not funny to me? Even if people aren't really hurt, the bullies would slam people up against the wall, or we used to have this thing with hairbrushes, pretty boys in Philly. So niggas will all be walking around brushing their hair trying to make waves.
Damn.
They's trying to put waves in their hair. And the moment they put that brush down, somebody would grab the brush, smack them in the back of their head with the wooden side.
All right, so back to what I was saying about hurt people hurting people.
Right.
Do you think it's actually learned behavior, or is it just, I want to hurt somebody like somebody else hurt me? Like, it's a way of loving.
I believe that it's learned behavior, but it's not direct learned behavior. It's not I saw somebody get hurt, and so I think I'm supposed to hurt people. What it is a matter of making things even and balancing your own scales. And
I'm talking about, like, family. You get what I mean?
Yeah, that's literally the exact thing that I'm talking about. Is that people believe that we're supposed to all be even. And sometimes we got to do a little bit more to make things right. Right ain't even.
Yeah.
Even is even, but then that's how you start wars and shit.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible teaches about. It teaches about turning the other cheek and shit.
I think motherfuckers don't know no better. Like, my father, as fucked up as he was, I think that he just didn't know any better. This is how I'm going to teach my son. This is all I know.
Well, my father literally told me. Yeah. He said, if I had to go through it, then you got to go through it. Not realizing.
That's pretty fucked up.
Literally, it is fucked up. It's simple. It's so simplistic because my father was a simple man. As simplistic as that is, if I did it, you gotta do it. If I went through it, you gotta go through it. As simplistic as it is, that's the real maniacal. That's devious right there.
Well,
that means the pain and suffering I had to go through, I want my child to suffer too.
Well, you already
because
told
I
me,
did it.
But you already told me. You know what I mean? That he came out and told you he was jealous.
Exactly. He came out and told me that he had ill will towards me. But how long did it take him to figure that out, though? Some people think that their negative feelings are natural.
Yeah.
Like, this is how everybody feels, or this is how I'm supposed to feel.
Right.
Or they think the person that I hate is doing something wrong. They are fucking up, and that's why I have these feelings, because of them.
Yeah, that's more like projection.
It is, but the projector doesn't know that.
I hate that.
The projector doesn't know what they're doing wrong.
I fucking hate that, dog.
They think that all of this is the way it is supposed to be. That's why I hate that saying, it is what it is. No, it is what you make it.
Well,
And so when there's hate involved, when there's suffering involved, nobody ever wants to take accountability for their part in it. Like, hey, I'm causing this person to suffer. Like, damn, this person don't have to suffer, but I want them to suffer. I'm making them suffer. And then they come up with a justification for it. Well, I went through it and I'm happy with who I am, so you got to go through it. Not realizing that the objective should be to want your child to have better and do better. Like,
that's not the society we live in.
Unfortunately. And so, like, if I had children, I would say, hey, I had to go through it, so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you don't have to. I want you to skip that part.
Exactly.
I want to give you the benefit of everything I learned from going through it by just teaching you, showing you the benefit of this. If you are this way, this is how you will succeed. And if you are the other way, this is how you'll get further away from what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
You don't have to go through the trial and error that I went through. You don't have to get the scars I got. I'm going to just show you the end result. And then you can choose for yourself. Because, me, I don't tell you what to do. I just tell you what'll happen if you do it.
And that's why we have different concepts. Like, I'm the total opposite of my father. Like I was telling you before. That nigga used to choke slam me like the Undertaker. But I wanted a whole different relationship with my kids. You know, and that's what I tried to do. But the Matrix pretty much still got him. You know? All the outside influences and shit like that. It's almost like no matter what you do, you know, but that's another topic. You know, back to what I was saying, is hurt people.
Right.
And I chose not to hurt my kids. Like, you know, my father hurt me. Like, my mother, you know, she didn't really hurt me, but she really didn't do nothing for me. That's the same shit. No education. Even though she was the head nurse at Jackson. You know what I mean? They chose not to educate their children about life or teach them anything. They just had kids, and we were just there. They kept a roof over our head and shit like that. But that's it. That's all they did for us. Everything I learned, everything I am, is from the fucking streets and goddamn Nintendo.
Yeah, bro. We live in a culture of satisfaction. And of course we don't want to have a hive mind, because if something is wrong in the hive, you don't want that same mind. You want to elevate the whole hive, you know, but you can't, because we're not a hive. And even if you were, you don't see a bee or an ant stepping out of line to do better. You know what I'm saying? So they won't do that. But what you do want is to elevate the culture before the people you love, the people you do care about, all 1.5 of them get sucked into it, because you're going to have an impact on the outside world. You walk out of there. I remember I did a study once, and there was girls in there, of course, and we were in there for 30 days. What happens when you in a confined space with the opposite sex for over a certain amount of time? They're going to somebody going to get attracted to somebody. Something going to happen. So what happened?
Proximity strikes again.
The girls in there started rolling up their sleeves. Why? Because I ripped mine off. So they start rolling up their sleeves. They want to show their little arms too. They start braiding each other's hairs. They wanted to braid, you know, they want braids like my cornrows that I had. They start cornrowing each other's hair and shit.
Right.
I had an effect on them. We all do. We all have an effect on each other.
Right.
And so it's like, well, the problems that we have out there in the world are reflective of what people put out there.
Yeah.
You know, the if you have an issue with your next door neighbor did something, they're not original. They didn't make that up. They got that from somewhere. You know, if they're loud, this is because they were taught to not care about their neighbors. They were taught that it's okay to be too loud. They were taught that it doesn't matter what time it is at night. You know, they that came from somewhere. It's a culture, and there's a lot of people who agree with them. I once had a conversation with a woman who had an autistic. She has an autistic son, and we watched a video where there was a woman whose autistic infant was hollering. She could not appease this infant.
Yeah.
And the people in the line were like, could you please find something to do? Like, this is crazy. And so the girl I was having the debate with said, well, those people need to mind their business. which is one side of looking at it. But if that child is inconsolable and giving everybody a headache and disrupting the business, people can't hear each other speak. Then it is their business.
Yeah.
But she was taught that none of these other people matter. She was taught that this is a conversation between A and B, me and my child. My child is crying and I'm the only one that has to deal with it and fuck everybody else. And so with that mindset, she also has another son. And that's what that son is going to grow up learning and feeling.
You ever heard the phrase school of thought?
Mm-hmm.
That's the ghetto frame of mind, the ghetto school of thought. A lot of that shit, unfortunately, and I mean, I hate categories. I hate putting people in categories.
Everything needs to be categorized.
But sometimes, you know what a motherfucker's going to do already. Because you know where they from. As soon as they open their mouth, they start speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you from such and such. I'm going to give you a little more wiggle room to prove to me who you are. And I pretty much know what you're going to do. Like yesterday, what did I tell you about the car? I was like, one of these monkeys, and I did use the word monkey, is going to park right up on me because they can't give a little space. And you saw all the space that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Like, dude was right on me, dog. I'm like, God damn. All this extra space? That's his train of thought. And I already know he's a monkey because I had a problem with him before.
Mm-hmm.
I barely talked to the guy. But I knew somebody was going to do that shit. And just wound up being his dumbass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, yeah, the I guess the point that I'm trying to make about hurting people is that the people doing the hurting, hurt people is a phrase that's relatively new. The sentiment is age old, but the phrase is new. And because the phrase is new and it's trending, people are finally starting to realize it, but our parents didn't have that phrase. So they didn't realize that they were repeating the traumas.
Yeah.
They didn't realize. They didn't know it. They thought that that's how it's supposed to be. My mother used to literally tell me, she used to literally start sentences with, you need to be worried about. Like, why are you telling me what I should care about? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, she used to say, oh, well, what are you doing? Oh, well, I was going to write a letter to this pretty girl in my class. You need to be worried about your school books. You need to be worried about that test coming up. You need to be worried about doing your chores.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm 7. I don't need to care about anything that a 7-year-old has not decided that they want to care about. If that's what's important to me, then what you need to do is incorporate my chores and schoolwork into what I already care about. Because that is what makes people rebel. But she thought that because she was told what to care about and what she was, she ended up doing what her parents thought was important and neglecting her own self, that it was okay to just tell me the same thing.
Well, I've read a lot of Sigmund Freud.
Mm-hmm.
So I know about behaviorism and all that shit, and then my personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have books in there and shit. But why do you think it's us that get to evolve? Why didn't they evolve? Why do you think it's us? Your opinion. I want your opinion. I mean, I have mine about it, but.
Well, I disagree with that sentiment. We are their offspring.
Right.
So they are evolving through us.
That's not what I meant.
I know.
Why didn't they evolve like we are?
I think
like we have.
I think evolve is not the accurate term. It's not that they didn't evolve, because that's what the evolution happens through the generations. Every generation is better than the last generation. So so we evolve because it's natural. And there's things that we don't have that our children will have.
Right.
So they're the next stage in the evolution. So I mean that's just natural.
I'm talking about as far as hurting people.
They just
like, let's not
learning takes time. It takes time.
So why do we learn so much faster?
Because evolution. Learning takes time.
That's what I just said.
Well,
why
that's
we evolve.
But
why? Well, what do you think?
Evolution happens I just told you. Every generation is the next stage in evolution. So we evolved from them. And then our children will be smarter than us. And they'll look at us and say, y'all dumb fucks, why didn't y'all know this? And then their children will do the same thing and say, y'all stupid motherfuckers, Why did y'all believe in religion? I mean, every generation is evolution. That's why we evolved, and they evolved past their parents. That's just what life is. That's what human life is, anyway.
Well, I mean,
it takes them. We can't learn everything all at the same time.
Of course, but
so we learned something they didn't know.
But that would be like saying hurt people shouldn't hurt other people then, instead of hurt people.
Well, that's just the fact though.
If they're doing the same shit their parents did,
mm-hmm.
and they're hurting us, and they did what they did to us,
mm-hmm.
and we said in our own lives, I think it's a personal decision. You know what I mean? That's part of the evolution. You know, it's like, okay, I don't want to be like you. I want to be different.
but we have the benefit of hearing about it and learning about it, and other people, telling us that, like, we live in the age of social media. So what that means is we are connected to pretty much everybody else in the world. So the things that we thought we were alone in, or the things we thought were unique to our hood, or the things we thought were unique to our culture or our race, we find out aren't, because we're connected to people. So when I say, man, my parents are the meanest parents in the world because they whooped me for no reason, and I guess I was just a piece of shit, because they never told me why they whooped me, and then somebody from Canada says, hey, you're not alone, my parents whooped me too.
Right. And
then we find out what our parents had in common. And then we realize that this is, a part of the culture, and we can break it if we want.
Well, for me, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. So it takes learning, it takes communication, it takes learning, it takes studying, it takes all of that. And they didn't have the benefit of that. All they had was their neighborhood.
That's not how I learned, though. I had my neighborhood too. I didn't have. We're about the same age. I didn't really have all that shit. I just decided I didn't want to be like these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's. Well, I guess everybody's.
I learned the same way too. I learned as a kid. I was like, this ain't fair, and that's what I was telling you. That's what I was telling you earlier when last night when I said, how come motherfuckers didn't learn the same thing that I learned?
Yeah.
All it took was for my mother to accuse me of something.
Yeah.
And I said, that's not true. I didn't do that. And then she said, oh, you calling me a liar? So I got a whooping for doing it and a whooping for calling her a liar. Yeah, when I didn't do it. I instantaneously knew that wasn't right. So of course I didn't want to do that to my kids. So I would say it's a personal decision, except that obviously if you and I both made that decision, then it has to be generational and or cultural. And for them, it was a personal decision. But why? Their parents did it. Their parents' neighbors did it.
That's what I'm trying to get at, and that's why I even brought up the topic of Sigmund Freud and behaviorism and shit like that.
Uh-huh.
Back to your question. We did it. Why didn't they?
Next stage in evolution.
Yeah, I mean,
we're supposed to be smarter than them. We're supposed to be able to figure things out that they couldn't figure out.
They just didn't want to a degree. Like every time my father chose to choke slam me.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I think it was his father punching him in the face. That memory, and then him just grabbing me. This is how you gonna learn.
Well, yeah, that's just what I was about to say. Every decision, and this is why I get into a lot of conversations, arguments, debates, and how I build off of people, and we back and forth and learn from each other, is because I never, ever, ever, ever settle for what happened.
Yeah.
I need to know why.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did your father punch you in the face? And you just said it, because in his mind, that's how you learn.
But that's
he was comfortable. He was comfortable with the person that he was, and said, "Well, what made me the way I am is this. I got punched in the face. I got beat up. I got abused, and it made me thick-skinned and all of that." My issue.
I wanted to kill that nigga, dog. I really did.
I mean, you can say that because he ain't around no more.
I did, dog.
Yeah, but you can say that because he ain't around no more. My father's still around, so I'm recording this, so I'm not saying that.
Well, I mean, something happened to him. We know it's not you, but
it was not me if something happened.
Yes, exactly.
That's right, exactly.
You shouldn't even have thrown that shit in there.
Hey, you brought it up.
Yeah.
But no, it's really all about the why. And it's not about there's nothing that can answer or prove negative. So you can't say why not. Why did they not learn what we learned? But why did they decide that was the right thing to do? A lot of it is narcissism. I know my mother is a narcissist. My mother's a big time narcissist, and so she'll come to me and say, you know, I'm sorry I wasn't the best mother. Right. But the thing is, even if I thought she was the best mother, she would still come to me and say, hey, I wasn't the best mother. I could have did this different. I could have did that different. But you know what she said to me when I was speaking to her one day? She asked me to explain something. What? It was just something that I wanted to talk to her about. Maybe I had a gripe or something. I forget exactly what it was. And I said, you know, it's just, I don't think it's right. And she said, be specific. Yeah. She says you have an extensive vocabulary. So I can't accept something as general as, you know, just something. You need to be specific. Right. But then when I thought back to her apology, quote unquote, she was very general.
That makes it a little weird. Go ahead.
I had to say it. She was very general, which means to me that if she can't accept me generalizing something, but she generalized it, that means she understands that it's unacceptable. Her apology in quotation marks. Okay. She understands that it's unacceptable. She just wanted, because she's a narcissist, she doesn't know what she did wrong. She doesn't know why our relationship is not as strong as, you know, the TV families. She doesn't get it. She's in her head, it was the right thing. It may have been the right thing to do, to bust me upside the head with a broomstick and throw me down the steps.
You're telling me your mother's still in a pod, basically.
Oh, definitely. But here's the thing. Even if, because she's a narcissist, even if she realizes, damn, I shouldn't have did that, she won't apologize. Yeah. She'll never come out and say, I was wrong for that specific thing. It's not something anybody should do. Yeah. And before you have kids, I want you to learn that please don't do that.
I think my parents were more on the line of psychopathy instead of narcissism. I think they both knew what the fuck they was doing and didn't care. I honestly feel that way. Like they were out of their pods. They were just
you know what's wild?
Psychos.
As you're saying that, I understand every word you said.
I know you do.
And still,
and that's why I said it like that.
And still, I can't fathom. I think fucking your kid up and not caring.
I believe that.
I can't even fathom that. Doing your child wrong and just being like, oh well.
That's how I feel.
And the thing is, one of the things that when I have debates about slavery, I bring up the same point. How can you disrespect a human being and be okay with it? How can you scar someone on purpose, know it was not the right thing to do,
zero empathy,
and just be okay? I can't fathom. I can't even fathom.
Now that I think back though, my parents were aliens though. They were fucking.
All right, now I'm gonna stop recording. Stop recording now.